So this is part two to continue the analysis of the English 2 persuasive essay. I'll continue with this example right here. The author was using an illustration to help explain her point, and she was talking about whenever you can't just point to a strange man and confess your undying love and affection for him. And then the next technique that she used right here, this isn't in the CAFE SQUIDD either, but she gives a judgment or opinion um, that connects back to the thesis. In other words, that you can't choose to be happy or in love because that's a fallacious attitude and it's an irrational attitude. And so the next one right here, she extends it again with another description right here. She describes what that process must look like. And so I'm going to label that down here that this is a description. She describes what it is instead. You fall in love, you don't choose to be in love. And she says it's a natural thing. And then she does another thing right here in the end of the sentence. She connects it again to the topic of happiness. And she does something really cool right here. She used you must fall in love. Now she uses a parallel structure right here, which means you use the same words or grammar to say what you were trying to say before. And so that comparison right here with falling in love and falling into happiness is what she says makes more sense. So we must fall into happiness to truly feel it, and the only way to do so is to be in an environment that stimulates the said emotion. So this to me right here is more explanation of how you don't choose to be happy. It's a matter of where you are. So she's connecting it back to the thesis again. Now we have another paragraph as in addition. So she's moved away from this idea about where you hear about and you're comparing and contrast the choice versus something that's natural because of where you are. Now she's going to go into another idea, and I can tell this because she's moved into a different paragraph. An emotion being faked can be seen everywhere. Look at what she's done again here. It's almost like this is the same technique that she's used up here in this one. Emotion being faked can be seen everywhere, and then she gives specific examples: movies, television shows, and friends. And as a reader, I can already feel like I know some movies that I've experienced seeing this element, television shows, friends, and I like this that she's added here that it's a sad thing that you have to experience this from your friends. And then she's got this other example here that's family. So there are several specific examples of where you can see emotions being faked. I firmly believe that happiness is confused with having a positive outlook. So let me think about what I would call this one in looking at the CAFE SQUIDD. So she's saying that it's confused with a positive outlook. I could say that this is an example of a comparison or a contrast. And so she's saying that it's not really that people are having a choice, it's really something else. And so she's making a contrast to what the choice isn't. In other words, people are confused. It's my spelling error, maybe. There it is. Now look at this next part. She's got an extra part of this sentence. It seems to go on a long time, but I can still tease out what our ideas are in the separate clauses of our sentence. While we may be internally hurting, it's easy for us to believe that everything will be okay. This is what she's doing, is describing a specific instance. And then right here, but more often than not, it's something we force ourselves into to alleviate some of the stress a natural emotion might be inflicting on us. So I keep saying so, I need to stop doing that. So she's using the word force and comparing it with natural emotion. So it's logic here that she's using, reasoning, which isn't in your CAFE SQUIDD, but that's some of the things that people do. They use logos, pathos, and ethos as techniques to help express their ideas and give them more sentences to help the reader understand what the viewpoint is. The last part right here is she moves into a different sentence, and we can see that she's using a specific example from history. And one of the things I know about the rubric, that it privileges examples that show that a student can connect their ideas across multiple disciplines. And now what she does is, I believe she was confusing having positivity with happiness. This is an extension of the example used earlier when she was talking about this part right here, confused with having a positive outlook. So Anne Frank right here is an extension. It's really another example of what the writer is trying to help us understand, that you're not choosing happiness, you're choosing a positive outlook instead. Now, in this last part of the essay, she's moving toward her conclusion, that she's restating it right here. So she's transitioning. And then the last part right here is where the author restates and names the choice as a natural reaction instead of a choice. And now what I want to do is direct your attention to all of these comments over to the side. Yes, we have a great paper here, but underneath that, all of these comments here represent intentional choices that the author used. And they are also intentional choices that you can use as a writer as well to help you elaborate or clarify or add more to what you're saying. Teachers a lot of times ask us to clarify or explain or elaborate, but we don't know what they mean for us to do. This is what they're meaning for us to do. And if you can write some of these down on the side of your paper when you're trying to figure out what else you can say about that idea, I think these are some strategies that are going to help you get closer to doing what you need to do.